Hello and welcome to Motorcast. I'm your host Toby Jones for today's review of the two races so far of Formula E's first season. To discuss these races, I'm joined by two fans of the Formula, Josh and Joe. How are you doing today, guys?
I'm doing great. I'm electrifying.
I'm good. Yeah, not too bad.
Brilliant. That is absolutely fantastic. So this is the first Formula E review show for the Motorcast podcast, and I'm just going to go through quickly the rule change for Season 3 of Formula E. So we've got a few rule changes. There's a new front wing on all the cars. Weirdly, it's purely for visual purposes rather than performance boosts, which is quite surprising. Regeneration of energy has also been increased from 100 kilowatts to 150 kilowatts. That makes greater differentiation in race strategies with longer first stints and shorter fast and second stints. The Michelin, the French tyre manufacturer, has also provided new treaded 18-inch tyres, which are more energy efficient as they have less rolling resistance and reduced weight, and there's also now 1 point rather than 2 for fastest lap. There's a few team changes. Truly's unfortunately withdrew from the sport due to technical and financial issues, as well as Team Aguri, who were took over by CMC, and the team has been renamed. I can't pronounce this, so Josh, please pronounce it. I can't pronounce it. Techeetah, right, Techeetah. Well, we'll get there by the end of the season, I'm sure. Okay, also, Techeetah are using a customer powertrain from Renault for Season 3. Amelie Andretti has entered a technical partnership with BMW. Jaguar has entered the sport the car manufacturing collaboration with Williams Advanced Engineering as a means of expanding their electric vehicle portfolio. And finally, Dragon Racing has manufactured its own drivetrain after using the Venturi drivetrain in the 2015-16 season. So, on to driver changes then. 2015 European Formula 3 champion, 25-year-old Felix Rosenqvist, I think that's right, joined Mahindra Racing alongside legend Nick Heidfeld, German, 39 years old Nick Heidfeld is now. Wow. And also the FIA GT World Cup driver Maro Engel joined Venturi, as well as the three-time World Touring Car Championship champion Jose Maria Lopez joining the series with DS Virgin Racing. Marcin Hua, who partook in the final 3 rounds of last season, races full-time at Techeetah alongside Jean-Eric Vergne, who's moved from Virgin. And 2009 A1GP champion Adam Carroll and 2012 GP3 champion Mitch Evans joined Panasonic Jaguar Racing for its first season in the sport. 2 driver changes. Antonio Felix da Costa switched from Team Aguri to MS Amelie Andretti. And as I mentioned earlier, Jean-Eric Vergne switched from DS Virgin Racing to Techeetah. Blimey, this is long. Not long now, and then we'll start the discussion. Leaving Formula E, Bruno Senna after 2 seasons with Mahindra to drive in the World Endurance Championship. Simone Di Silvestro left the series to drive in the Australian Supercars Championship Series 2017. And Mike Conway, who split time between Venturi and Toyota Gazoo Racing in the WEC in 2015-16, chose to focus strictly on the latter and elected not to return to Formula E. So, Josh and Joe, what do we think then of the new team, Jaguar?
Well, at the moment they're last in the constructors with 0 points, but could we really expect any more from them, really? The new team coming into a formula that's have had, these 9 other teams that have had a number of years in the sport, a lot of expertise there, and Jaguar are very much a new team, not new to electric, of course, cars. Jaguar do have their own program, but really, it'd have been tough to expect more from them, but maybe a little more than a best finish of 12 so far.
Mm-hmm. Joe, what do you think of their philosophy to go with 2 rookies? Quite surprising.
Yeah, I think it's quite refreshing in a sense, because obviously, Formula E, I think, has got a little bit of a reputation, as I've mentioned on a few things before, of sort of having maybe washed up drivers and like second-rate Formula 1 drivers. So I think it's good to sort of see a new team come in and do things a little bit differently. So yeah, it'll be interesting maybe to see how it evolves over the course of the season. The season is we're 2 rounds in at the moment. So maybe if we see them picking up towards the end of the season, maybe even looking already forward to season 4, getting a sort of a good end to the season, something for them to build on as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how their season evolves in that sense, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely nice to see another British driver. Certainly low in British drivers, only 3 on the grid, a bit the same with the Formula 1 to be honest. Sam Bird, Oliver Turvey and Adam Carroll make up those 3 drivers. So let's go to the team who finished first in the Constructors last season, Renault Edams and Sebastian Buemi, who won the title last year. Now, looking at the drivers this season, Josh, would you say that Sebastian Buemi is the best driver?
He's certainly the driver with the most points and certainly the best all-round package. And it's possibly he's the best driver. You could argue that Lucas Di Grassi is arguably the best racer. Possibly Buemi's the best guy over the one lap, but possibly Di Grassi does have that better racecraft. Although it is very, very hard to judge. I mean, last season we saw Buemi make quite a few mistakes in qualifying and in the race as well. He clearly had a pretty dominant car last year, and he barely won the championship. Although, of course, you could then say, look at Nico Prost and the other Edams, and Buemi has really made him look average over the past couple of seasons. So Buemi's certainly a top-line driver, of course, both in the World Endurance Championship and in a Formula E as well. And of course, back in Formula 1, you can argue it both ways really. Did he deserve another shot? Because he's certainly doing a very, very good job, I think, in Formula E at the moment. He's really made it his home, as has Di Grassi. And we're seeing a bit of a really, really nice rivalry, I think, between those two, which kind of started in the majority last season, and it's really built up over these last few months.
Yeah, definitely. Joe, so who's your favourite then? Buemi or Di Grassi, or do you think someone else is the best driver?
I think it's difficult to say. I mean, season 1, in that sense, I think was sort of like, I guess you could say, the purest form of racing, in the sense that it was literally just down to the teams setup wise. But I think Buemi has just maybe, as Josh said, in pure speed, maybe isn't the best driver. But it's obviously early days for the sport at the moment. But in pure racecraft, I think Buemi, I think we've seen, especially in the first 2 races of this season, he just knows how to win races. Which I guess does come maybe with experience. He's had a car in the last 2 years which has been up there contending, and it's a little bit like Lewis Hamilton in F1. It gets to the stage where if you have a dominant car all the time, you know what you need to do. So it'll be interesting, as the season goes on, to see whether there's any other drivers who can challenge, and maybe if there are any other drivers who can win races on a regular basis. We saw in the first race, next EV, back at the front again. So if they can maybe continue that, then we may be seeing Nelson Piquet again, up at the front of the grid. But yeah, I think at the moment it's difficult to argue with Buemi not being the best package on the grid.
Yeah, and I think you can't really say anyone else is going to win the championship apart from Buemi or Di Grassi at the moment.
No,
it feels like
not.
Sam Bird, Felix Rosenquist, Robin Fries, Antonio Felix da Costa, all these guys can win races, but you don't really feel like they can win them consistently or string together a championship challenge. And whether that's the fault of the series or I guess you can't really blame them for that. But yeah, it's very much a Buemi versus Di Grassi for season 3. Possibly, further down the road, we'll probably get a couple of these other emerging as contenders to break their dominance.
I think Sam Bird's an outsider, very much an outsider. But like you say, you've got people like Rosenqvist, who I think definitely won't be able to put a sustained challenge up for this season, but I think for next season could definitely put up a challenge. So Buemi, just pretty much the last bit on Buemi, would you say that it's a combination of driver and car, Joe, or a driver outperforming his car? Because his teammates only had 2 pretty bland he's third in the championship, but 2 pretty bland 4th place in the first 2 races, and obviously Buemi's won the first 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen over the first 2 seasons that maybe Prost isn't quite up to, well, obviously isn't up to the standard of Buemi, and maybe Buemi just is, performing to the standard of that car, and like you say, Prost isn't quite up to it. We all know the links that his dad has got to Renault. And the reason why he got put into that seat in the first place, and like you said, it's just two pretty bland 4th places on the TV coverage. Definitely, we've hardly seen him in the first 2 races, whereas Buemi has been coming through the field. He's been making overtakes left, right, and centre. So yeah, I mean, Prost has had those first two seasons. You can't say that he's still getting used to the car or whatever, because he's been in that car exactly the same amount of time as Buemi. So yeah, I think at the end of this season, if the trend from the first 2 seasons does continue, then yeah, maybe it is in Renault's interest to look elsewhere, especially if Buemi doesn't manage to get that championship, or if the end of last season had have gone another way. Then they are heavily reliant on Buemi. But I don't know, maybe I don't know what you guys think, but maybe Renault have adapted that sort of very much a number 1 and number 2 driver status.
Yes.
So whether
a bit like Ferrari.
Yeah, and whether if they're comfortable with that, then they may want to stick with that going forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's enough on Renault Edams at the moment. Let's go down to the second constructor in the grid. That's Abt Audi Sport. Now, Josh, what did you think of Lucas Di Grassi's first race in Hong Kong? Very good, to be fair. From 19th, considering he broke his front wing on the first lap and still finished second. I mean, I could say that he benefits from the mistakes of Sam Bird and other drivers, but certainly a champion's drive, really, from 19th to second.
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, he did have a lot of luck. Let's put it out there. But that's how you win championships, really, with a spice of luck and really picking yourself up after a major bit of strife, of course, for Di Grassi. I thought his race was done, of course, in the opening laps, but he fought back. He saved his energy so well, and that's what separates a lot of these. Say Di Grassi and Rosenquist, two very very quick drivers, but Di Grassi is the one who can save his energy, the greatest at the moment. So. Yeah, Di Grassi's drive was great in Hong Kong and Marrakech as well. I thought he put in some very nice overtakes.
And what do we think of his teammate, Daniel Abt? Obviously only 8 points at the moment, but certainly a solid second driver.
Yeah, I guess it's similar to what Joe was saying about Nico Prost, but I guess the difference there is, Nico Prost is 35 and Daniel Abt is 24, so that is really the difference. As in Prost, of course, is only going to probably be good for another couple of seasons. We have seen older drivers, of course, do very well in the series, but Daniel Abt is a man I think that they're really, really trying to, groom into the new Lucas Di Grassi maybe in a couple of years down the line. And of course, the same with Prost. His surname, of course, is in the team. So yeah, he's got a few friends, I think, in the team, of course, including his dad. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to Dios Virgin, we've obviously got a rookie in the team in the form of Jose Maria Lopez. He's only scored 1 point so far. Joe, what do you think of the combination of a British driver driving for the British team and maybe a rookie? Do you mean it was probably a quick replacement for Jean-Eric Vergne, or was it somebody that put it in purposely to partner Sam Bird?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting combination. I mean, Lopez has got pedigree, obviously in touring cars, but Formula E it's a completely different ball game, and I believe he was confirmed in July, so it was plenty of time to sort of bed himself into the team and get testing under his belt. But yeah, I mean, I think Virgin, especially when they got Vergne last season, they were probably seeing as Virgin are and have been sort of a top team for the first 2 seasons. I think they were expecting Vergne to stay around, and they had 2 real quality drivers there last season. But yeah, Lopez, I think he'll take time to sort of get into the series. Whether he does actually end up becoming a good driver, a solid top 5 performer, which is what that Virgin car is definitely capable of. Obviously that remains to be seen, but I like the way that Bird obviously goes about his business. I think he's probably known as the nearly man of Formula E in this early stage, definitely. But fantastic drive from him in Marrakech, it has to be said, and ridiculously unlucky in Hong Kong as well. But yeah, I mean, I think if he can keep up this form, and also I think the key for Bird this season isn't whether he can, put in good qualifying performances and get himself in contention. It's going to be a case of whether in the races where maybe the Virgin car isn't as good as the Renault or as the Abt, whether he can still then be outperforming the likes of Buemi and Di Grassi. Because if he can, when the car isn't up to scratch, then he's got every chance. But as of yet, and going off previous seasons, I don't think he can quite do that.
Mm-hmm. Now on to Dragon Racing, Faraday Future Dragon Racing, officially using the Penske powertrain for this season. Now, I've always thought Dragon's a bit of a bland team, really, with Loic Duval and D'Ambrosio, a solid mid-table team, but only 7 points so far, 6 of them coming from D'Ambrosio and only the 1 from Duval. What do you think of Dragon this season? Any potential, Josh?
There's potential there because they do have a great driver in Jerome D'Ambrosio. I thought he's been absolutely solid since Formula E started. One of the surprise guys, really, because I guess most of us will probably know him as the guy who did 1 year in F1 with Virgin and replaced Grosjean when he got that race ban. So really he's come out of kind of nowhere and done a really, really solid job in Formula E. But this season just has not gone his way. There's certainly potential, of course, like you said, that they are powered by Penske. They certainly know how to win over in IndyCar. So I think this is one, well, the name is Faraday Future, and I think they do have a strong future, and it's probably not going to be right now, but I think that they're going to get stronger and stronger, and I think with D'Ambrosio and Duval in there, I think they could get a win this season later on if things go their way. I think they're going to be a very yo-yoing team, just like they were last year, where they're really good at certain tracks, but just absolutely nowhere at others.
Yeah. Joe, would you agree with that? Would you say that Jerome D'Ambrosio is a solid driver?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with everything that Josh said there. He's, D'Ambrosio, I think you could probably liken him to Buemi in the sense that he knows exactly what he needs to do. He's got really, really good racecraft. And always somehow, he's a little bit like Sergio Perez as well in F1 in the sense that he always manages to find himself there or thereabouts when an opportunity comes his way. And I guess I agree with what Josh said. If there's ever going to be an opportunity for a race win, chances are he's going to be there to take it. And I think that's maybe something that Sam Bird needs to pick up on in that sort of sense. But yeah, I mean, so far this season, been probably a little bit underwhelming. But it'll be interesting again to see whether D'Ambrosio can keep on sort of plugging away, and I'm sure at some point he'll get an opportunity to at least challenge for a win at some point.
Okay, on to Mahindra Racing Team then. They're using their own powertrain for this season, the Mahindra, and obviously the manufacturer's Mahindra. They're going to be quite an interesting lineup with Nick Heidfeld, 39. What a race he had in the first race. Particularly good start from 10th, and I think he got to 5th by the end of lap 2. Finished 3rd in that race. Like Di Grassi, he did profit from PK and Bird's mistakes. But Rosenqvist as well, very good race in the second race. Really unfortunate, actually. I think he had fuel issues or something like that. But certainly a solid finish to 3rd. What do you think of that lineup, Josh?
Oh, it's brilliant. I'm really, really glad that they've been rewarded with some really, really good results. They took a risk, of course, with Felix Rosenqvist, but really, I think most people did know that was definitely going to pay off. I mean, not this much though. He got pole position, of course, in Marrakech. Arguably, could have won in Hong Kong and Marrakech as well. But apparently, there was some kind of error where Rosenqvist couldn't see how much energy he's used, or there was some kind of energy error. So basically, he was saving too much energy in Marrakech, and he lost out, of course, to Buemi and Bird in the end. But yeah, he easily could have won the first 2 races of the season, which is pretty incredible for a rookie. Nick Heidfeld, of course, like you said, he might be old, but he's certainly, still got it. With that podium in Hong Kong, he is probably going to slip back. He probably will, I think, finish behind Rosenqvist, and he's probably not the guy who's going to be winning them races, but he's certainly the guy that's going to be consistently scoring them points, and I think it's definitely one of the best and most exciting lineups on the grid. Joe,
are you surprised that Nick Heidfeld at 39 still got it? A fairly tender age.
Yeah, no, I mean, we see in all sort of all forms of motorsport that once you pass sort of 33, 34, it's sort of a downward spiral. Just not because they're bad drivers, but just mainly the reaction time. Just sort of declines. They've still got the driver's instinct, but I guess with Formula E, with it being very much on tight circuits, quite skill based in that sense. You are relying definitely on your driving instinct. So yeah, I think that maybe favours the older drivers in that sense. But no, fantastic to see him still there, and I've got to agree with Josh. I'm a massive fan of Rosenqvist. Really, really good to see that they took that chance on him. I guess he's known as sort of quite a specialist on street circuits. I believe he's won the Macau Grand Prix a couple of times in the past. So obviously he's got that pedigree on street circuits, and he's proven so far that he's going to do the job. And I think he's going to be definitely a driver that's. I'm going to put a prediction out there. I'm going to say he will win a race at some point this year. He's putting himself in contention. He's got a decent car beneath him, so it would be great to see him win a race at some point.
Yeah, I'd go along with that, absolutely. Now on to Venturi, the team from Monaco. Now, Maro Engel, the 3rd German on the grid, a rookie for this season, in the FIA GT World Cup. He's joined Venturi alongside the Frenchman Stéphane Sarrazin. What do you think of that lineup, Josh?
Interesting for sure. I mean, Engel, of course, I think, including, I'd never heard of him, to be perfectly honest, and I think most people hadn't heard before the season started. But yeah, he started the season pretty well, I thought. He's a bit of a surprise star really. He kind of looks like he's a good guy to get the job done. I mean, he scored a point, of course, in his first race and finished ahead of Sarrazin. So I think Engel's alright. Sarrazin, of course, very, very, very consistent over the past couple of years. But possibly, I think, bit of an underwhelming lineup, and overall, they are ninth now in the constructors, and I think they're certainly, lacking that kind of big star. I mean, they had Nick Heidfeld, of course, in the first season, and then really last year, Sarrazin did a great job, but he's not looking quite the same this year. And they had Villeneuve and Conway last year, so but of course both of them have since left. So I don't know. Venturi's just a bit of a I can't really see him going anywhere, to be honest, this year. I can't see them. Maybe a couple of podiums is probably their best hope.
Bit of a flat team, would you say, Joe? Not really going anywhere, just there for the race, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was disappointing. Obviously, they went for Engel, who's quite an experienced racer. He's definitely been around the block. He's competed in so many things. I think mainly it's DTM and Formula 3 that he was in, but ever since he finished DTM, sort of quite a few years ago, like I say, he's just been around the block, and I think it was very much a decision which they sort of, I guess, had to take at some point to pick a driver, and he just happened to be that one guy that they picked. But yeah, underwhelming at the moment, off the track and on the track. I mean, difficult to see them really doing much. I mean, Tay Cheetah are actually ahead of him in the constructors' standings at the moment, and definitely looking as if they're going to be probably higher up come the end of the season, maybe. But Sarrazin, you can't write him off. He's done well in the last two seasons, always there or thereabouts. One of those sort of drivers who's always in the mix, and yeah, maybe he'll prove us wrong, but we'll have to see whether we're right come the end of the season.
Yeah, so moving on to Amelin Andretti now, the second American team in the Formula. They've gone with Robin Freitz this year. I think he drove there last year. And new driver from Team Aguri, I think it is. Team Aguri, Antonio Felix da Costa. Now, I really rate that lineup. That's a good lineup. Josh, would you think the same?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely one of my favourite in the series. Da Costa and Freitz, two drivers who really, if you were to take Prost and Abt out of, Edams and Abt, I think you probably put those two into those two slots. They really, really do deserve, I think, a top line drive, because those two are quality drivers. They really do get their elbows out. I mean, they're quick over one lap, but really where they earn the money is in the race, because they really are two great racers. Great first race, of course, in Hong Kong to come back from earlier strife. Didn't go the way in Marrakech, but I think it's going to be very exciting to see how they perform over these next few races.
They've had 18 points so far, Joe. Do you think they could upset the apple cart when it comes to the constructors a little bit?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I really do rate Da Costa as a driver. Very unlucky not to get his chance in Formula 1 at Toro Rosso, but yeah, he's again. I can't think whether it was last season or the season before where he won a race, but he can prove that he can do it at the top level. And Robin Freitz as well last season, wasn't in a good car, but he drove really, really well. I believe got a podium one race. Can't remember which race it was, but
yeah, and drove when his rear wing was not screwed on properly. Still got it to the finish. His car was crabbing and he still took it. Yeah, that
was great. I mean, yeah. So they've got a really, really exciting lineup. It's a sort of lineup that can, one of the drivers can do a 5 or a 6 out of 10 race one week, and then they can produce a 9 out of 10 the next. So yeah, never really know what you're going to get, but like you said, they're definitely a team who've got the potential to definitely cause an upset at some point. So yeah, very, very exciting. Scored good points in Hong Kong, but didn't quite do it in Marrakech. But yeah, will be really, really good to see them develop throughout the season. And I think they will have definitely one good race somewhere along the way.
Now, on to a very strange team, I think, next. Tumiguru, that obviously took over, and now Ted Cheetah. I think it's Ted Cheetah.
Yeah, you're getting it right.
Brilliant, I got it right. They're actually using a Renault drivetrain for this powertrain, for this season, along with the Renault Edams team. Now, the only reason I think this is peculiar, Verne's a very good driver, don't get me wrong, but Marcin Quard, do you think he's just there because he's part of the home crowd? He certainly hasn't impressed me.
Well, it's Marcin Quard. But yeah, they have a Renault powertrain in the back, the best powertrain on the grid, and they have 4 points. It's pretty pathetic, to be honest. even though they are, of course, pretty much a new team. It's pretty much a new operation. New people have been brought in. They've only got 4 points. Vern probably, definitely should have got a podium in Marrakech, but got a drive-through penalty. So they just have these teething problems that are really holding them back at the moment. These kind of basic issues, but they really need to get sorted, because if they had the car tuned up properly, they would easily have probably the second best car on the grid.
Well, Joe, at least they can race with Jaguar.
Well, exactly. So, but no, I think it's a good point that Josh made about Marrakech, or I'm pretty sure I've pronounced that right.
Yeah, that's right.
I
Show him respect.
Yeah, but
he deserves it.
Very much so. We know that he's maybe not quite up to scratch. I think it's fair to say, but I think they went sort of all out on one driver, Jean-Eric Vergne. Who'll hopefully develop that team throughout the season, and just get rid of those basic issues which they've been having, because there is definitely a good race car underneath there, and there's very, very good race driver in Jean-Eric Vergne, very good Formula E driver as well. Knows how to drive the car, knows how to get good points. So will be very intriguing to see how they develop in comparison to Jaguar. Having two new teams gives us maybe something definitely to compare them against, and like I say, to see how they can develop throughout the course of the season. So, another one to keep your eye on throughout the course of the season.
Definitely. So on to next EV now. It was next TEV, I think I want to say. It's now just next EV. Now, I didn't realise this, but Nelson Piquet only this season got his first pole at the first race. Actually, he won the championship, the first inaugural championship of Formula E, but only got his first pole this season at the first race. But Josh, he well and truly bottled it on the first race, didn't he?
I don't know if I bottled it. I mean, he was pretty unlucky with Lopez's car.
Yeah.
I think it was Lopez in the barriers.
True.
But I know what you mean. It was such a surprise though, wasn't it? I mean, first race of the season, we get the team that finished 9th in the Constructors and last year, and then they're 1-2 on the grid for the first race of the year. I mean, that's Formula E for you. And really this season has been a lot of that, really. Just a lot of surprises already this season. A lot of shaking up of the order, even though, Buemi has risen to the top once again. But next to VV. What can I say? I mean, great. They clearly do have a much better car this year, but unfortunately they haven't quite been able to unlock that really big result. I mean, Turvey as well, right up there with PK. I think people have rated Turvey for quite a while, since he made his debut, really, because he was right up there with PK, of course, who you mentioned was the Season 1 champion, and Turvey has pretty much matched him. Yeah,
Joe, would you go along with that? Two pretty much good drivers?
Oh yeah, I rate that lineup very highly. I mean, I think it's probably one of the best on the grid. I remember when Turvey first came in, and when PK was going for the championships, everyone expected him to just play second fiddle, but he didn't do that. He properly went for it, and it looks like that's continuing. He's sort of following him around this season, especially that first race where he managed to get that front row lockout with him. Very disappointed in the race though, although both of them supposedly bottled it or whatever. PK very unlucky with the car in the barriers. Jose Maria Lopez at the chicane, I believe. But no, I'm sure. If there are any, I haven't looked too much in depth about what the tracks look like for the rest of the season. But if there are any more similar to Hong Kong, then we can definitely expect them to be up there again fighting.
Well, that finishes our roundup of the teams. The Drivers' Championship currently has Buemi 22 points ahead of anybody else, winning the first two races. Lucas de Grassi in second with 28 points, and then in third we've got Nico Prost at the moment. Now, we can pretty much count Martin Quarry out of this vote, but Josh, one name that has impressed you so far in this season?
Oh, one name to impress me, even though I kind of expected it, but not quite as much, Felix Rosenquist.
Okay, Joe?
I'm going to go quite boring and say just Buemi, just because... he wasn't on pole for either race and was very far back in the grid, and he still manages to come through and win these races. His racecraft is fantastic, and in that sense, he's just head and shoulders above everyone else. And I don't think even I expected him to maybe dominate quite this much at such an early stage.
So we Lucas di Grassi 22 points behind now, Josh. Do you think, well, it's not wrapped up certainly yet with 2 rounds only gone, but do you think Buemi will win the championship fairly easily this year, or do you think somebody like di Grassi or Bird could challenge?
I wouldn't say easily. I think he will win out eventually, but I think it could be pretty close. These next few rounds are going to be crucial. Those first 2 rounds are a bit kind of away from the rest of the calendar. This, where we're really going to get into it, I think particularly say around Monaco time, where I think we're really going to know who the contenders are. And if Buemi wins the next 2 races, yeah, he's got the championship. But I think, like Joe said, there's quite a few contenders out there that really are capable of winning races. So it's going to be close, but I think Buemi's going to win another championship.
And Joe, would you say that Buemi's going to win it as well? Yeah,
I mean, you can't really argue with that, to be honest. Next two, 3 rounds, very interesting. The next 2 rounds obviously are Buenos Aires and Mexico. So we've got those 4. We've got first 4 rounds away from Europe. So I think by the time we get to Europe, we'll have a good idea of who's where in the championship, and whether anybody, even if Buemi is maybe quite far ahead in the championship, whether anybody has sort of come through the field over the Christmas break and really taking the challenge to Buemi. But I think at the moment it'd be very, 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 very difficult to write off Buemi winning the title, to be honest.
And the next 2 races are probably going to be crucial, because we saw Argentina last year. That was the one where Buemi came from, I think it was 18th on the grid, of course, last, all the way to 2nd, and Sam Bird put in a great performance to defend the lead. That was pretty risky stuff from Bird, but he managed to get the win in the end. And then, of course, Mexico, that was the absolutely crazy race with di Grassi and Buemi and all that going off, and then of course di Grassi brilliantly winning the race only to be disqualified, and then of course D'Ambrosio, like you said, gets himself in those positions and scooped up his first win of that year. So yeah, I think I'm a big fan of both Argentina and Mexico. I don't think we got that good racing really around Mexico, but there was certainly a lot of drama. So yeah, I'm very excited for this next 2 races.
Well, speaking of the XT Prix, the XT Prix is on the 18th of February next year, so we'll probably be back in the 3rd or 4th week of next year. We'll hopefully have our permanent host on, Nathan. I'm only a temporary host for today's discussion. I'll be sitting back as an analyst next time, so you can hear more of my views next time. Nathan will be the host, and we'll see you about the 4th week. Now, quickly, guys, just a last thing. Obviously, the Buenos Aires E-Prix, just a quick preview. Sam Bird won it last year. Josh, could Bird win it again this year?
Yeah, I think it's pretty possible, to be honest. I mean, he finished 2nd in Marrakech and should have won in Hong Kong. So yeah, I'm going to go Bird, Buemi, di Grassi.
Joe, your podium?
Oh, difficult to say. I've got to say though, really do like it as a circuit. Very much suited to Formula E. Again, I'd probably say Bird will win that. He's slowly creeping up the grid as the season's gone on, and he's been there or thereabouts, put in such a great defence, you say, last year. So I'll go Bird to win, Buemi 2nd, and then I'll mix it up and I'll say Rosenqvist 3rd.
Oh, very interesting. So that rounds it up for today's podcast of the review of the first 2 Formula E races. If you like this podcast, make sure to leave a like on the video. I've been Toby Jones from Motorcast, and Josh and Joe have joined me, and we'll see you next time for the 3rd race, a 3rd race review, Buenos Aires. Goodbye.
Bye.